Hey guys, Marstingan here, bringing you another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and so we are continuing on the Extreme Super Battle Road guides, trying to get these all made and put up before the stages actually come out. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, help out the channel. My analytics show a good 40% of you guys that watch the videos aren't subscribed, so smash that like button as well. Hit the bell so you know when my videos go up. We're doing guides for every single stage. They will be ready for when the event is out. So any stages that you guys need help on, there will be a guide available. So we are moving on to stage 15, which is the PEPPY GALS stage. So PEPPY GALS, obviously on global, we don't have the Dokkan Fest Videl. So we don't have a full proper, quote unquote, category leader. But we still have some very strong units. Obviously the Int Brienne is probably the best leader option. The launch is very good as well, and then there's a ton of sub leaders, so a lot of people will have access to a good lead for this team. Even the STR Ribrienne after her Easy A is pretty strong. So as always, we'll go through some top picks, some honourable mentions, and then we'll have a quick overview of the category again at the end. So obviously the Int Brienne is one of the best choices for the leader for most people on this team. She is a 120 lead. Obviously she transforms straight away on turn 1 to become the Ribrienne, and she is actually very good. So 120 attack and defense, then she gets an extra 10% attack and defense and nerfs the enemy's attack and defense 10% up to 30% per PEPPY GALS ally on the team. So obviously for the full team, that means she's getting a 70% attack and defensive buff and giving the full minus 30%. So not only does that help her out, but obviously it helps out everybody else on the rotation because you're reducing all of the enemy's attack by 30%. And then she also gives PEPPY GALS allies 2 key and 30% attack and defense. So you can use her as a support unit if you don't want to run her on main rotation. Obviously this is the category where you can run like all of the Universe 6 Saiyan girls, so you may just want to use Ribrienne as an off-rotation support unit, but she can function in that role very, very well. And she does seal super attacks with her super, so obviously that is another thing that is very, very useful in Super Battle Road. So we also have the physical launch. Obviously she is a PEPPY GALS 120 leader as well. And just like Brienne, she transforms straight away to become the blonde-haired launch. She does supreme damage to the enemy and greatly lowers attack, which is something which is super useful in Super Battle Road. She is pretty self-sufficient. She gives herself key. She's got a very solid attack and defensive buff. She gets a nice little bit of extra attack and defense, launches 2 additional attacks, each of which has a high chance of becoming a super, and she has a high chance of performing a crit, all for 6 turns from the start of the turn. So for Super Battle Road, you not very often do you go over 6 turns, so she's going to have this full buff available pretty much all the time. As long as there's another PEPPY GALS ally on the same turn, which obviously is always going to apply in this event, she also seals the enemy's super attack, so that's super useful. So she just has a ton of utility. Even without dupes, it's very easy for her to like triple super. She's getting crits, she's getting seals, like she's just super, super useful. So it's arguable, I guess, who is the best leader for the team out of her and the Brienne. I would say maybe she's the better card overall, but the attack lowering from Ribrienne is definitely something that is super useful. But of course, if you have both, doesn't really matter which one you use as the lead, but you probably should bring both of them on the team. So the only downside, I guess, for launch is that outside of links like Battlefield Diva, she doesn't have a huge amount of links with everybody else because a lot of the other units from this category are Saiyans or from the Universe Survival Saga. But that doesn't matter too much for her because she gives herself key. She just won't be giving a lot of the common attack links to everybody else, but she is a very strong option. And then, of course, we mentioned her very briefly at the beginning, but there is the free-to-play STR Ribrienne. Post Easy A, she has a 99% to stats leader skill for PEPPY GALS, which is still pretty good. She does raise attack and defense on her super attack. She does supreme damage, and she does have that 30% chance to do the extra super attack, which just does a little bit more damage. It still has all the same effects, it just does a little bit more damage. And then her attack and defense is entirely based around PEPPY GALS allies on the team, which of course here is going to be a full team. So with the 7 units, you're looking at just over 150% attack and defense. She recovers 22,222 HP per key sphere, rainbow key sphere, which is very useful. Not always, you know, you're going to be able to pick up a ton of them, but it's a decent amount of healing per orb. And then she also gets additional attack, defense, and chance of performing a crit, and chance to dodge. 22% when there is an ally whose name includes Rosie or Kakunsa on the team. There's obviously the free-to-play versions of them. I didn't mention them in these honourable mentions at all, but we can look at them briefly at the end. They're not super great units, but obviously for someone who is free-to-play, they are more options that are available to you. But I think for a lot of people, the heavy theme is going to be on the Universe 6 Saiyans. So, speaking of course, we have the only LR on the category, which is the Super Saiyan 2 Caulifla and Kefla. Very, very good. Now, in this stage for PEPPY GALS, there is only the one fight, which is the second one here, where you fight a... actually, no, we got Goku in the first one. So, first and second fight, you have a pure Saiyan enemy. There's no Universe Survival Saga enemies at all, though. So, in the first and second fight, you are going to be able to make use of the passives of all of these different Caulifla and Kefla units that require you to be fighting against a pure Saiyan enemy. So, they definitely are going to help out a huge amount. I mean, even without their full passive, so when you get into the final fight, they're still really good. They've got, every time they attack, they build up their stats, they build up their chance to dodge. They're only really a little bit of a liability in the first turn, and then once they start building up, they're just going to be super good, super powerful. You know, when you get one of those turns where they're putting out 3 or 4 super attacks, they do an insane amount of damage and then are very good defensively afterwards. And of course, they link up incredibly well with all of the other units that we're about to talk about. So we've also got the AGL Mai. Now, she's not one of the Universe 6 Saiyans, but I do think she's a very good unit for Super Battle Road. You know, Super AGL ESBR, she was definitely an MVP because she gives all allies 3 ki. She only gives a stat buff to AGL types, but obviously we do have a few of those in this video that are going to work very well on the team. And then she gives all PEPPY GALS allies a chance to crit plus 10%, so that's very useful as well. And then of course the best thing about her, and the reason why she's on this team building guide, is she does have a 70% chance to stun with her super attack, so obviously that is incredibly useful. Stunning is probably the most powerful mechanic for Super Battle Road, so she is definitely worth including on the team, and her passive helps her to be a little bit self-sufficient because she's not going to share a ton of links. Obviously, everybody on the team basically has Battlefield Diva, which is a key link, so you don't have to worry too much about key, but obviously a lot of these units aren't going to share the same attack links. So moving on, we have the Super Saiyan 2 Caulifla, the AGL one. She's obviously very good. She has a built-in 50% chance to dodge. She also has a chance to counter super attacks. And then she does raise her defense when she supers. So if she doesn't dodge, as long as she's in slot 2 or 3, she's going to take a little bit less damage after a super attack. And of course, if you do double super, you're going to raise that defense by even more in that one turn. So she is very, very good. Again, another unit that was really good for Super AGL. She's going to be very useful on this team build as well. So then we move on to the STR Kefla. Now, she has returned once or twice for Global, so more likely that people will have her from when she first came out. When it comes to Super Battle Road, she's not necessarily the best unit in the game. Obviously, she starts off in base, and then when you get to turn 3, transforms into Super Saiyan. The biggest problem with her is that you need to pick up 6 orbs in order for her to have the dodge chance that's built into her passive. And obviously sometimes that's just not possible depending on how the orb field is laid out. So you can get into situations where she could potentially take quite a lot of damage. And of course the dodge is still RNG related even if you do get the 6 orbs. So there is possibility, especially for super attacks, that she's going to take a lot of damage. When she transforms up to Super Saiyan, obviously just all of her stats go up. She does a bunch of extra damage. She still needs the 6 orbs. And then you can transform, as long as HP is 60% or more, you can transform on the next turn. So if you have her on turn 1, it is very possible that you're going to get to turn 5, and then you can transform her up to Super Saiyan 2. She has an active skill, which you can use in the first or second fight, because there's a pure Saiyan enemy, which just changes a bunch of key spheres to STR and makes her super effective against all types. But the biggest thing about transforming her up to Super Saiyan 2 is that she gets the dodge chance built in, and now getting 6 orbs gives you an additional super attack guaranteed. So the built-in dodge being guaranteed for that form is probably the most useful part, but you won't see it until turn 5, and then again, it is a high chance, so it's only 50-50, and she's potentially not going to dodge. But her defense at this point will be pretty decent, so I do think she is a good option. Maybe not one of the top tiers for the Universe 6 girls out of all some of the other ones that are available, but she will be very good on here as well. I thought I'd include the physical Kefla as well as like an honourable mention. She's kind of dropped off a little bit. She's not aged super well. She does change orbs for herself, so into physical, and then she has a built-in chance to dodge. It's only medium chance, so 30%. And then she does launch an additional attack that has a high chance to become a super. So she is a nuking style unit. You need to pick up as many orbs of her as possible. And the biggest problem for Extreme Super Battle Road, being how hard the enemies hit, is if you're not able to pick up a lot of orbs, she doesn't have any flat defense like at the start of the turn. She only gets the 12% per key sphere obtained as her defense. So if you get stuck with a rotation where you can only pick up like 3 or 4 orbs, her defense is going to be really, really bad. And so because she only has a 30% chance to dodge, she's definitely going to be a bit of a liability. So she's an honourable mention if you need another unit to fill a slot, especially if you are running a Universe 6 heavy team, because she'll help out with the links at least. But she definitely is not a top tier choice for the team. So moving on to more Caulifla and Cauliflas, we have the base form ones, the Tech Caulifla and the STR Kale. Obviously in fight 1 and 2, because there's a Pure Saiyan enemy, Caulifla has a 100% chance to dodge. So the strategy would obviously be to target the other enemies first and leave the Pure Saiyan enemy alive. And then, yeah, she's going to have a 100% dodge chance for those turns while the Pure Saiyan enemy remains. So you can just put her in the slot wherever the most attacks are, and you don't have to worry about it. She's not going to take any damage. Hopefully they fire off her super attacks, the super attacks towards her, and she's just going to dodge everything. Now, obviously, in the last fight, when you don't get that 100% dodge chance, she does still have built-in dodge per Universe 6 or PEPPY Girls ally on the team. So obviously you're running a full PEPPY Girls team, especially if you're bringing a bunch of the Universe 6 girls as well. Her built-in dodge is actually going to be fairly high anyway. And she does raise attack and defense on super attack. So kind of like the LR Caulifla and Caulifla, when it comes to the last fight, she'll be the most liability in turn 1. But once you've started to build up, she'll be pretty good. And of course, she does launch an additional attack that has a medium chance to become a super when there is a Kale on rotation. And all of these units that say they require a Kale or a Caulifla, that obviously includes the LR Kale and Caulifla as well. So fairly easy to get that to activate. And then Kale is essentially the same. She's not going to dodge, but she gets guaranteed additional super attacks. So when you're in those first 2 stages, she's going to be supering multiple times every turn. And so she is going to be raising her defense fairly quickly. So just like Caulifla, a little bit more dangerous on turn 1, but then she builds up very quickly. So the two of them together work super well. So then we have Bulla. I thought I'd include her because she is one of the solid support units on the team. Because you're running a PEPPY Girls team, she has a 60% chance to dodge built in. The only problem is, while she is good for providing that support to the rest of the team, if you don't get that 60% dodge chance, she will get absolutely destroyed. Like, her defense is not good at all. So if you're going to be using her, if you have to put her in a slot where there's a bunch of attacks, I would say that's definitely a good turn to use a defensive item. Because 60% chance to dodge is obviously very good, but, you know, we've all seen even UI Goku with 70% dodge chance fail to dodge. And if she doesn't dodge, she's going to get hit for a lot of damage. So if you're using her, you need to be smart with your items. But using her on the team is going to give everybody else such a massive attack boost that obviously they're going to be able to deal a ton of extra damage. So then we have the Int Farsha. I thought I'd include her as a free-to-play option. She has a built-in chance to dodge. She lowers attack on super. Obviously, there's not going to be a Bardock on the team, so she won't change orbs, but that's not as major a part of her kit. Again, she's kind of like Bulla, though, especially because she's a free-to-play unit, where if she doesn't dodge, she is going to take a lot of damage, even from the enemy that she has attacked and lowered their attack that turn. So she's a good free-to-play option, but probably not top tier for a lot of other players. Then we have the Int Videl. Again, not super top tier, but she can be very useful. She lowers the attacked enemy's attack by 20% for 2 turns and recovers 20% of damage dealt as HP. So if she gets off like a couple of supers, if she gets that additional and maybe gets some crits, she's able to give you a ton of healing back in one go. So if you're running a less Saiyan-centric team, she's going to be pretty good and share links with a bunch of the other units as well. Then I put the Int Toa on here. So The Int Toa is on here basically because of the last part of her passive. So if you drop below 50% HP and she comes onto the turn, she gives you a 50% heal. Now, the other part is, of course, she gives extreme class allies a massive buff for that turn, which doesn't really apply for this team because they're mostly super types. But for a lot of people, I think bringing her essentially as like an emergency heal is probably going to be a very solid idea. Plus, she does lower attack and seal supers, so she does have utility for the team as well. Then I had to include Android 21. She lowers attack on super, which is obviously very good. And then she can transform. She heals on super attack, which is good. And then once you transform, she heals at the start of the turn. I actually prefer healing on attack because it lets you kind of recover mid-turn. But either way, she will be pretty strong. She's a bit of an odd one out in terms of the links with the rest of the team. So, you know, at least she does have Battlefield Diva for the key. But she can be quite useful with that healing and the attack lowering. And then last but not least, we have the STR Chi-Chi. She in and of herself isn't that great a unit, but she gives Peppy Gal's allies key 3 and 120% defense, which I'm pretty sure is the biggest support buff that any unit gives, like on a general basis. There's no restriction. There's not like a specific turn or anything like that. It's just every single turn she's on rotation, they all get an extra 120% defense. So when you look at some of the units on the team that are going to be building their defense up incredibly high, like the LR, Caulifla and Kefla, this, like having her on rotation with them is going to make their defense absolutely ridiculous. So there are a lot of good options for Peppy Gals. There's a whole bunch of units we didn't cover. Funnily enough, this guide video is turning out to be the longest one out of all of them, and there's a whole bunch of units we didn't even talk about. So despite the fact that Peppy Gals doesn't have a 170 lead, this team has a ton of options for good units. We didn't even cover any of the androids, apart from 21. We got all the 18s are on here. There's a bunch more free to play, like Caulifla and Kefla's, the Rosie and Cocoonsa as well. So this team has a ton of options, and just like the OG Super Battle Road, even though the Extreme Super Battle Road stages are harder, the Peppy Gals one is one of the easier ones, so hopefully won't be too much of an issue. But let me know what your team build is going to be down below. If you think I should have talked more detail about some of the units that we didn't quite cover, then feel free to continue that discussion in the comment section down below. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new, check out the rest of the playlist for all the other guide videos, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.